Back in the late 1970s, Eastwood High School wasn't much different from any other small-town school. Nestled in the foggy outskirts of a forgotten Midwest town, it had its football games on Friday nights under flickering floodlights, its awkward dances in the echoing gym where the punch always tasted faintly metallic, and its gossip that spread faster than wildfire in the cafeteria, fueled by the stale scent of overcooked lunches. But there was one story everyone knew, though no one liked to speak of it aloud. The story of Rebecca Morgan. Rebecca was the type of student teachers often overlooked, a shadow in the back of the classroom. She was quiet, kept her head down, and had a habit of sketching in the margins of her notebooks instead of taking notes. Dark, twisted figures that seemed to writhe on the page if you stared too long. While other girls wore bright lipstick, teased their hair high, and gossiped in the bathrooms about weekend plans, Rebecca spent most of her time in the art room, hunched over her drawings under the dim glow of a single bulb, her fingers stained with charcoal that never quite washed off. Unfortunately, being different made her a target. The popular kids picked on her mercilessly, their cruelty as relentless as the autumn rains that battered the school's leaky roof. They hid her books in the most humiliating places, scrawled cruel words on her locker in permanent marker, freak, invisible, nobody, and whispered insults when she walked by, their laughter echoing like distant thunder. Some said it got worse in her final year, that the taunting pushed her to the edge, with notes slipped into her backpack threatening worse if she didn't disappear. Whispers circulated that she started hearing voices in the empty hallways, murmuring her name from the vents. On a stormy night in October, when the wind howled like a tormented soul, and rain lashed against the windows like desperate fingers, Rebecca stayed after school to finish a painting project. It was a grotesque self-portrait, her features distorted in shades of crimson and black, as if screaming from the canvas. When the janitor locked up, his keys jangling in the oppressive silence, he didn't notice she was still inside, lost in her work. The next morning, her body was found in the East Wing hallway, dangling from an exposed pipe like a broken marionette, her neck twisted at an unnatural angle, her eyes wide open and staring blankly at the floor. But what unsettled people most wasn't her body. It was the scene around her, a tableau of madness that chilled the blood of the first responders. Every mirror in the East Wing had been shattered into jagged shards, the glass scattered like frozen screams across the linoleum, reflecting fragmented horrors in their edges. And on the wall, written in dripping red paint, or was it blood? The metallic tang in the air suggested the latter, were 5 words, smeared as if clawed by trembling hands. "Do you see me now?" The school called it an accident, a tragedy. They cleaned up the hallway with industrial bleach that couldn't erase the faint red stains seeping into the grout, covered up the story as best they could with hushed meetings and falsified reports. But whispers spread quickly among the students, slithering through the vents and lockers like invisible smoke. Some swore Rebecca's death hadn't been by her own hand, that shadows had been seen moving in the East Wing that night, pulling her into the darkness. Others claimed she was still there, waiting for anyone foolish enough to enter the East Wing alone, her presence lingering in the cold drafts that brushed against your neck like icy breath. Not long after Rebecca's death, the rumors began to coil through the school like vines in an overgrown cemetery. Students who had detention late at night reported seeing a pale girl standing at the end of the East Wing, her silhouette flickering in the dim light like a faulty projection. Teachers said they heard footsteps when no one was there, soft, deliberate pads that echoed closer with each passing second, only to vanish when you turned. One of the earliest accounts came from a sophomore named Mark, a cocky athlete with a smirk that hid his unease. He stayed after school for basketball practice, the gym's squeaking sneakers fading into silence as dusk fell. Deciding to cut through the east wing to save time, he pushed open the creaking door, the air inside thick with dust and something sharper, like the ozone before a storm. The hallway was dim, the flickering fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like swarms of angry insects, casting elongated shadows that seemed to twist and reach for him. As he walked, he heard the soft sound of humming, a tune he didn't recognize, faint and childlike, but warped, as if sung through water or from a throat long decayed. It grew louder, wrapping around him like invisible threads. When he turned, heart pounding in his ears, he saw her. Rebecca, or something that looked like her, but wrong, too pale, too still. She stood at the far end, head tilted at an impossible angle, long dark hair falling across her face like a veil of spider webs. Her dress hung limp and stained, and in the brief flash of light, Mark swore he saw her lips move, mouthing words he couldn't hear. He bolted, his footsteps thundering in the empty hall, the humming chasing him like laughter. When he told his friends the next day, they laughed, calling it nerves from too many ghost stories. But they stopped laughing when he showed them the scratch marks that had appeared on his locker door overnight. Deep gouges in the metal, as if made by nails sharpened to points. They spelled out the same words, etched with precision. "Do you see me now?" And beneath them, a single drop of red paint, or blood, had dried, leaving a sticky residue that no one dared touch. From then on, more sightings trickled in. A girl in the mirror's reflection who wasn't there when you turned, lockers slamming shut on their own, trapping fingers, whispers in the vents that knew your secrets, hissing them back at you in Rebecca's voice. Years passed, but the ghost of Rebecca never faded, her presence woven into the very bricks of Eastwood High like a curse that refused to lift. Teachers came and went, some quitting after unexplained accidents, trips in empty halls, doors locking behind them in windowless rooms. But every janitor who worked at the school carried the same warning, passed down in low voices over flickering flashlights. Never walk the east wing alone at night, lest you feel her eyes on your back. Mr. Harlan, a grizzled custodian who had worked there for over 20 years, his face etched with lines like cracks in old plaster, finally confessed what he had seen during a stormy evening shift. He was sweeping the halls around midnight, the broom's bristles whispering against the floor like secrets, when he noticed muddy footprints leading down the east wing corridor. They were small, childlike, but smeared with something dark and viscous, trailing water that smelled of rot and iron. Thinking a student had snuck inside, perhaps for a dare, he followed them, his flashlight beam cutting through the gloom like a knife. The footprints stopped abruptly in the middle of the hallway, pooling into a dark stain that seemed to pulse faintly under the light. Ahead of him stood a girl in a school uniform, her back turned, shoulders hunched as if sobbing silently. He called out to her, his voice echoing unnaturally loud in the silence, but she didn't move. As he took a step closer, the lights overhead began to flicker, buzzing louder, the air growing colder until his breath fogged before him. She slowly turned her head, and that's when he saw her face, illuminated in strobing flashes. Her eyes were hollow, sunken pits, black voids that seemed to suck in the light, pulling at his soul. Her mouth was stretched unnaturally wide, as though frozen mid-scream, teeth glinting like shards of glass from the shattered mirrors of long ago. A thin trickle of something dark, blood, dripped from the corner of her lips, pooling at her feet. When the lights went out for a split second, plunging the hall into absolute darkness, she was gone. But the smell of iron, thick and metallic, like fresh slaughter, hung in the air, clinging to his clothes for days. And on the wall where she had stood, fresh scratches appeared. "Do you see me now?" Etched so deeply they pierced the paint to the drywall beneath. Mr. Harlan put in his retirement papers not long after, his hands trembling as he signed. He never spoke of it again, but those who saw him afterward noted how he flinched at shadows, how he avoided mirrors, whispering that something had followed him home. In 2003, as the new millennium brought cell phones and skepticism to Eastwood High, a group of seniors decided to prove the ghost stories were nothing but nonsense, relics of bored small-town minds. Led by Jake, a brash football captain with a camcorder and a laugh that masked his underlying thrill-seeking fear, they planned to record a documentary in the East Wing after hours. Armed with flashlights, cheap night vision lenses, and a Ouija board for laughs, they snuck in through a loose window, giggling nervously as the building creaked around them like an old house settling into its grave. The group, Jake, his girlfriend Sarah, tech-savvy Tom, and quiet skeptic Emily, set up in the infamous hallway, their equipment humming softly. The air was stale, heavy with the faint scent of dust and something sweeter, like decaying flowers. They started filming, mocking the legends with exaggerated whispers. "Oh, Rebecca, show yourself." But as midnight approached, the jokes faltered. The temperature dropped sharply, their breath visible in the beam of the camera light. Footsteps echoed from the far end, slow, deliberate, like bare feet on cold tile. Tom checked the recorder, his face paling. "Guys, that's not us." They laughed it off, but then the Ouija board's planchette moved on its own, scraping across the letters. DOYOUSEEMENOW. Sarah screamed as the lights flickered, plunging them into darkness, punctuated by the camera's green glow. In the footage later recovered, shadows twisted unnaturally, and a figure appeared, pale, with hollow eyes, reaching out from the wall as if the bricks themselves were birthing her. Jake vanished that night. They found his camera the next morning, lens cracked, with the final frame showing his terrified face reflected in a shard of mirror, Rebecca's hand on his shoulder. The others fled, but scratches appeared on their skin days later, burning like acid. "Do you see me now?" The school sealed the East Wing, but whispers say Jake's still there, his screams joining the humming in the vents. By the 2000s, Eastwood High had modernized. Smart boards replaced chalk, security cameras dotted the halls. But Rebecca's legend persisted, amplified by social media and viral TikToks. Students dared each other to livestream from the East Wing, now barricaded with yellow tape that fluttered like warning flags. One viral video from 2018 showed a girl named Mia, phone in hand, venturing in alone. Her feed glitched as she whispered, "Rebecca, if you're here." The screen froze on her face, eyes widening before cutting to black. Viewers swore they heard humming in the static. Mia was found the next day, catatonic, staring at a wall where fresh words had appeared in red. "Do you see me now?" Doctor said shock, but her phone's gallery filled with selfies she didn't take. Her reflection replaced by a hollow-eyed girl, mouth stretched in eternal scream. Custodians avoided the wing, reporting cold spots that froze pipes, mirrors fogging with breath not their own. One night in 2022, a new teacher, Ms. Ellis, ignored warnings and graded papers there after hours. She heard scratching, like nails on glass, then felt breath on her neck. Turning, she saw nothing, but her papers scattered, each marked with bloody fingerprints spelling the message. Today, in 2025, Eastwood High stands, but the East Wing is condemned, doors chained. Yet students report glimpses, a girl in outdated clothes watching from windows that shouldn't reflect. The message appears etched in frost, in dust, in blood. Do you see me now? Some say Rebecca waits for acknowledgement, her pain echoing eternally. Others whisper she's not alone, that those who ignored her join her chorus of screams. Enter the East Wing alone, and you might see her. But once you do, she'll ensure you never look away again.